Most people think they understand the German Shepherd. They see the stiff posture, the sharp bark, the way your dog steps between you and a stranger, and they reach for a simple label. Overprotective. But what if that word is quietly misleading you? Because what looks like aggression isn't always emotion, and it isn't always a choice. Sometimes it's something older than both. Long before your dog learned your routines, before it recognized your voice or your home, it inherited a system. Not personality, not attitude. A system designed for survival, bred through generations of herding livestock across open land, of guarding flocks from predators, of working alongside humans in high-stakes environments, police units, military operations, search and rescue. This isn't random behavior. It's programming. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. If you've ever corrected your dog for being too much, too alert, too reactive, too intense, there's a chance you weren't correcting bad behavior. You were interrupting a purpose your dog doesn't know how to turn off. Because to them, nothing about it feels excessive. It feels necessary. And buried inside that instinct system, there's one specific trigger, one most owners never even notice, that quietly controls everything. To understand why your German Shepherd reacts this way, you have to go back to what they were originally built for. What you're seeing isn't a personality flaw. It's a blueprint. The German Shepherd wasn't shaped to be easy. It was shaped to be useful, precise, alert, and relentlessly aware of its surroundings. In late 19th century Germany, these dogs weren't lounging in living rooms. They were managing flocks, scanning open land, making split-second decisions without waiting for instruction. That matters, because herding isn't passive work. It demands control over movement, sensitivity to pressure, the ability to read subtle shifts in energy, both in animals and in humans. A good herding dog doesn't wait for chaos. It prevents it. So breeders leaned into that. They selected for intelligence that could problem-solve under pressure, for responsiveness that bordered on anticipatory, for a nervous system tuned not for calm, but for readiness. Over generations, this created a dog that doesn't simply exist in an environment. It monitors it, constantly. And here's where most people underestimate them. Your dog isn't only watching what's obvious. It's tracking micro-changes, your posture, your tone, the way a stranger approaches, the unfamiliar sound outside your door. Studies on working breeds show heightened sensitivity to environmental shifts, especially in dogs bred for guarding and herding roles. Their threshold for noticing change is lower, which means they see things before you do, and react before you think to. That reaction can look intense, sudden, out of proportion, but from your dog's perspective, it's timed perfectly, because in the environments they were built for, hesitation had consequences. A delayed response could mean a scattered flock or a real threat getting too close. So their system evolved to prioritize early action over perfect accuracy. Better to respond too soon than too late. Now place that same system inside your home. A delivery person at the gate, footsteps in the hallway, a voice your dog doesn't recognize. To you, these are ordinary moments. To your dog, they're variables, unpredictable, shifting, worth evaluating. So it steps in, not to dominate, not to overreact, but to manage. And once you see that, something changes. Because this behavior isn't your dog being difficult. It's your dog taking responsibility, even when you didn't ask it to. But purpose alone doesn't explain why your dog reacts so intensely. The real trigger lies in how they interpret your world. What feels random to you rarely is to your dog. The German Shepherd doesn't respond to isolated events. It responds to patterns, to shifts, to emotional signals you may not even realize you're sending. Because in your dog's world, nothing is just happening. Everything is information. A tightened jaw, a sudden pause in your walk, a voice that rises half a pitch higher than normal. Even the way your shoulders pull forward when someone unfamiliar gets close. To you, these are small, forgettable details. To your dog, they are signals, and not neutral ones. Dogs, especially highly attuned working breeds, read body language long before words ever matter. Ethology research shows that canines prioritize posture, movement rhythm, and emotional tone over verbal commands. They don't just hear you, they interpret you, which means something uncomfortable becomes possible. Your internal state becomes visible. If you feel uncertain, your dog may register instability. If you feel tense, your dog may register potential threat. If you hesitate, your dog may interpret that as a gap in leadership. And in their framework, gaps get filled. This is where pack dynamics quietly come into play. Not the exaggerated alpha idea people talk about online, but the simpler truth. Dogs look for structure, a sense that someone is aware, steady, and capable of handling the environment. When that structure feels inconsistent, your dog doesn't wait. It steps forward, not because it wants control, but because control feels absent. This is where many owners misread the situation entirely. They see a dog reacting strongly and assume it's too protective. But from the dog's perspective, it isn't protecting you from the world. It's responding to the emotional signals it believes you are broadcasting about the world. And the more sensitive the dog, the more detailed that interpretation becomes. Subtle changes in your breathing, the micro delay before you open the door, the way your energy shifts when someone approaches too closely. None of this is conscious on your part, but your dog isn't relying on consciousness. It's relying on pattern recognition, built through thousands of years of survival-based selection. So when that pattern shifts, when something feels even slightly off, your dog doesn't debate it. It responds fast. And that response can look like sudden guarding, blocking, barking, or stepping between you and whatever it has flagged as uncertain. But the real question is this: is it reacting to the world, or to the way it's reading you in the world? Because when that perception shifts, something powerful gets activated inside them. What looks like overprotective behavior is often something far more basic and far more exhausting for your dog. Inside the German Shepherd, there is no switch labeled calm or aggressive. There is only a system designed to respond to pressure. And when that system keeps getting activated, it doesn't return to zero. It escalates. This is where survival biology takes over. Every time your dog perceives a possible threat, real or misread, the body prepares. Heart rate rises. Muscles tighten. Focus narrows. Hormones like cortisol and adrenaline flood the system to sharpen reaction speed. It's the same fight or flight response seen across mammals. And it works beautifully in short bursts. A single moment of danger. A quick response. A return to baseline. But modern life rarely gives that reset. A knock at the door. A passing stranger. A dog outside the window. A shift in your own tension that your dog interprets as uncertainty. Each one adds another activation cycle. And here's the part most people never consider. There is no clean off switch if the environment keeps suggesting something might be wrong. So the dog stays partially activated. Not fully panicked. Not calm either. Just ready. Always ready. Over time, that readiness becomes the default state. The dog isn't choosing to stay alert. Its nervous system is learning that alertness is necessary to maintain safety. And that's where the misunderstanding grows. People see intensity and assume intention. They assume defiance or dominance or overreaction. But what they're actually seeing is a nervous system that has stopped distinguishing between possible threat and present threat. Everything becomes a maybe. And maybe is enough. Enough to bark. Enough to block. Enough to step in front of you without hesitation. But underneath that behavior is not aggression. It's fatigue. Mental fatigue from never fully standing down. And if you're watching this and slowly recognizing moments where your own dog seems to live in that constant honest state, moments where even small changes trigger big reactions, then you're already seeing the pattern most owners miss. Some dogs aren't reacting too much. They're reacting too often. And the difference matters more than it seems. If this is starting to change how you see your dog, not as difficult, but as overwhelmed, take a moment. Like or subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because understanding this is only the beginning of what's really happening beneath the surface. But here's where most owners unknowingly make it worse. What most people don't realize is that the story doesn't end with the dog. It continues with you. The German Shepherd is not operating in isolation. It is constantly reading feedback from your reactions, your timing, your consistency, and your emotional state. And without meaning to, owners often become part of the pattern. When your dog reacts sharply to a sound, and you immediately tense up, that reaction is recorded. When it barks at a stranger and you respond with anxiety, frustration, or even sudden praise, the message becomes unclear. Is this behavior correct? Or is it dangerous? Or is it something that works? Dogs don't analyze intention. They analyze outcome. So over time, the nervous system learns through repetition. If alert behavior consistently leads to attention, energy, or change in environment, it gets reinforced. Not as good or bad, but as effective. And effectiveness is what survival systems care about. This is where inconsistency becomes powerful. One day a stranger is fine. The next day you pull the leash tighter. One moment your voice is calm. The next it sharpens under stress. One situation is ignored. Another triggers urgency. From your perspective, these are normal human fluctuations. From your dog's perspective, they are data points that don't align. And when data doesn't align, the safest response is caution. Structure becomes unclear. And in the absence of clarity, the dog fills the gap with vigilance. Not because it wants control, but because control feels undefined. This is also where emotional dependency quietly shapes behavior. When a dog begins to treat your reactions as the primary guide for what matters, it becomes less independent in interpretation and more reactive to your emotional shifts. So if you're stressed, your dog senses urgency. If you're uncertain, your dog senses instability. If you become reactive, your dog mirrors that intensity. Not consciously, not deliberately, but reflexively. And over time, that reflex becomes a cycle. A loop where human emotion feeds canine vigilance, and canine vigilance feeds human concern. But here's the important part. This is not about blame. It's about awareness. Because the moment you see the loop clearly, you are no longer trapped inside it. You can change tone. You can change timing. You can create structure your dog can actually trust instead of interpret. And that shift alone begins to soften behaviors that once felt uncontrollable. But even if you fix all of this, there's one deeper instinct that explains everything. What finally changes everything is this. The German Shepherd was never built to simply protect. It was built to take responsibility. In working dogs, identity is not casual. It is defined by function. Herding, guarding, monitoring, responding. A clear job creates a clear mind. When that job is understood, the system settles. When it becomes unclear, the system compensates. And compensation looks like overfunctioning. So when your dog steps between you and a stranger, when it scans the room before you do, when it reacts before you've even registered a sound, it isn't trying to dominate your environment. It's trying to manage it. Because somewhere in that deeply wired working mindset, stability feels like a duty. Not a preference, not a mood, a duty. This is why overprotective never quite fits. It assumes excess. But what you're actually seeing is commitment without boundaries, loyalty without defined limits. And once you see that, frustration starts to soften into something else. Understanding. Because your dog isn't refusing to relax. It may not know it's allowed to. And that changes the way you look at every reaction, every moment of intensity, every instinctive step forward. Not as defiance, but as devotion without direction. We started with a simple label, overprotective. But now it looks different. Less like control, and more like responsibility carried too far. Your dog isn't trying to control your world. They're trying to carry it for you.